I'm back with my recent reads. March was an incredible month. I could not believe how many really good books I had. And so let's talk about it. I'm going to rapid fire these because there were just too many. And so I don't want to be here all day. I don't want you to be here all day. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Book Nook. I'm Maxine. I read some amazing books last month and I had only one DNF, which was really good. So maybe I'll just start with my DNF out the gate. And that was Quicksilver. I don't even know why I tried again. I tried to read it last summer when it became all the rage all of a sudden on TikTok. And I just was like, I'm not really feeling the story or the characters, and maybe it's gonna get better. But then I was just like, ugh, I'm not into it. I'm just gonna let it go. Well, and then recently I've been hearing about it again, I guess because it became traditionally published. So lots of people were talking about it. And I was like, well, maybe I jumped too quickly to conclusions. No, I did not. That book is terrible. So I think the writing was better this go round. So it must have been like edited. Whereas there was no way it was edited before. And also what bothered me so much then bothered me even more now. And that was the FMC. She was insufferable. I couldn't take it. So that had to go, and I'm not sorry. And I will not be trying again. There is no third time's the charm. And so that was really the only one that was not very good. Others were like 4 and 5 stars. So let's talk about it. One of the books I read, Sankofa, by Chibundu Anuzo. Oh, I hope I said that right. This book was so good. Library book. Okay, so the other thing I should tell you quickly is that the majority of my books, I think, or did I read all I think I read almost all library books. Quicksilver was on my Kindle, if you care. But I decided that I was just gonna go for like a ton of library books, and I did. And so I happened to see this in the library and thought, I'll pick it up. Whenever I see Reese's name, I'm not gonna lie, I get excited because I think she does pick relatively good books. So definitely, oh my goodness, this was a 4.5 star read for me. Quickly, it was a story about family and going sort of in search of family, but really in search of yourself. And so our lead character, she has never met her father. She's growing up in London with a white mother, and she knows that her father is African. So she travels to Africa to meet her father, and that's where the story unfolds. And it is a really interesting story. You get culture shock. You get her being someone of mixed race and how she is treated in Africa versus how she's treated in London. And it's just a really, really interesting story. I highly recommend this if you like contemporary fiction. Really good. And I'm looking forward to reading other books by this author. Another book I read in March that was so heartwarming. I was pleasantly surprised because, again, it was just a sort of a random pick in the library. And that is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This book caught me by absolute surprise and pulled a few tears from my eyes. And if you know me, you know that that's probably not all that surprising because I am woo woo woo. Like I can be emotional, and you can pull at my heartstrings pretty easily. And so my heartstrings were pulled for sure in The Wishing Game. This story is about a woman who she's sort of down on her luck, if you will, because she broke up with her very wealthy, well-known boyfriend. And, she is a kindergarten teacher's aide, so she's not making a whole lot of money. There is a little boy that she taught that she absolutely has fallen in love with, this child, and she wants to adopt him. He is in foster care, and if you read the book, you'll learn about how he ended up in the system. And she is very much attached to this little boy, and he's attached to her, and he really wants her to be his mom, and she really wants to be his mom. And so she ends up on this sort of journey, if you will, because she ends up on a journey to win a famous author's children's book because if she wins that book, then that could give her the money that she needs to adopt this little boy. What's even cooler about this is this all takes place. So she journeys to this island, Clock Island, which is the series that the author has written all these books around. And she journeys to Clock Island and she goes there and she's competing against other people to win this book. I don't want to tell you too much, but suffice to say, there are so many heartstring tugging moments in this book that, like I said, I cried, and for all the right reasons. I believe I gave this book like 4 stars. It was just, it was good. It was good. So if you are in that like cozy mood, I know that it's spring now and, you know, people want to get outside and, you know, we're probably, lots of folks are probably leaning away from books like this and more towards like the spring romance and sports romance and those kinds of things. But if you're in the mood for, you know, what I would consider to be like this really cozy, all gives you all the feels kinds of stories, I would say pick up The Wishing Game by Meg Shea. So listen, I may have already said this, and if I haven't, listen, come closer, come closer. R.F. Kuang, that is my girl. Listen, Rebecca Kuang, you'll never see this video, but on the off chance that someone says, girl, you got a fan over there in Maxine, do you see this? Girl, call me, because you my girl. I love your writing. Oh my God, you are brilliant. Okay. What did I read? I read Yellowface. Finally, I read Yellowface. This has been on my TBR since last year. So we're talking like January of 2024 when I first heard about this book. And that's when folks were doing like their wrap-ups for 2023, and it was on everybody's favorite list, you know, the favorite book they read in 2023. So I remember specifically like putting it on my TBR in January of 2024, and I said, I am absolutely going to read this book, and then it just took forever. So I finally read it and I was not disappointed. This story is about, if you don't already know, because I feel like this book has been everywhere and is still everywhere, but in the event you don't know, let me quickly tell you that this is about a woman who is she's a prolific writer, and she's young, she's talented, she's beautiful, she's all the things. And she has a friend, loosely a friend, who is also a writer, but who has not been acknowledged to be quite as talented. And so she's wrestling with those shortcomings, and but then she sees an opportunity to take advantage of her friend's work, because her friend, I'm not spoiling it, it actually says it in the synopsis. And so she steals her manuscript. And after stealing her manuscript, she of course now goes on to receive acclaim and a bit of, you know, literary fame and all the things. And let me tell you something. She is audacity walking. She is audacity, like the personification of audacity. The entire time I was reading this book, I was just floored by her privilege, by her bold and some of her bold and very, very, very bigoted statements that she didn't even realize she was carrying these bigoted statements. And I'm not making excuses for her, believe me, but I can acknowledge when someone doesn't even realize that what they're saying is so jacked up because they're so used to saying jacked up stuff. You know what I mean? Or thinking jacked up things. Y'all, I went on a good ride with this book. I enjoyed it. Were there points where it got a little bit dragged out? Yeah, like maybe in the last third, just a little bit dragged out. Maybe a couple of scenes that I thought, I don't know that I needed it. But overall, yet another beautifully written R.F. Kuang book. And this girl, she's an auto buy for me. And I highly recommend this. I gave this book 4.5 stars. So another library book that I picked up on a whim. I happened to be passing by, saw it, and said, let's pick it up. We don't know, because you know what? I don't always want books that have been reviewed on Goodreads or, you know, on Book Talk and BookTube, because back in the day, I used to buy books. I used to, you know, live my life long before all of this in social media. I used to live in Barnes & Noble. I could tell y'all a quick funny story, cute story, but I won't right now. Maybe some other time. about being a little kid and everyone else is in the arcade and I'm at the Barnes and Noble. But that's how serious it was for me in the 80s, right? Like I was always in the bookstore. So, okay. All this to say, I used to go to the bookstore all the time and just pick up books because of how they made me feel. I would look at the book cover, I'd maybe read a little bit of the synopsis, and that was all I ever needed. And so I don't like that I've become reliant on other people's opinions. Not that I don't value them, but we're all so different. And I notice, even for me, a book that I might not love right now because of whatever mood I'm in, then I might pick it up later and be like, oh my gosh, I love this book. Case in point, Bria. Oh my God, I feel like this young lady could be like my daughter, right? I mean, like I'm old enough to be her mother, but I'm gonna call her niece, right? I'm gonna call all of y'all niece. Don't be offended. It's a term of endearment. So this little niece, Bria, which I'm gonna put her information up here. I just love watching her. Oh my gosh. She read Part of Your World last year, I think she said, and she was just like, ew, this book is horrible. And when she said that about the book, I was like, what? I loved Part of Your World. Of the three, if you know, like, you know, there were 3 books in that series of interconnected people. Part of Your World was my favorite one out of the 3. So when she said that, I was like, girl, what was going on in your world that you didn't like? You didn't like that book. So interestingly enough, this video was about her revisiting that book because she said, you know, this book is well loved and maybe it was me. Maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace. And she reread it and she was like, oh, I totally missed it. This book was amazing. So that's my point. And I was just like, that right there. Sometimes we even talk ourselves out of loving a book just because of where we are in our lives, right? Or just where we are on that particular day. So are we going to love every book? No, but some books we miss. So I just loved that she went back and she read it. I mean, for the simple fact that I absolutely love that book. So the fact that she went back and read it and loved it too, I was like, yeah, see, that's great. I'm glad you loved it too. If she had read it and not loved it, that would have been obviously fine as well. But, you know, anyway, I feel like I'm going on and on about this, but that reminded me of how, you know, I used to always buy books and I didn't necessarily always have a series of reviews. Maybe a friend told me to pick something up, maybe a coworker, but mostly I would go and I just pick up books based on vibes and sometimes like the synopsis on the back. So that was this book, which is The Curse of Penrith Hall by Jess Armstrong. What made me pick this book up is that it was a first crime novel award winner. And I thought, well, I'm not familiar with this award, but if this is a winner, I'm just going to pick it up. I did turn it over and I saw that there was lots of praise and I was like, okay, sold. It's a library book. I'm so glad I read it. This was one of those books, PBS special, like when I used to watch like PBS type movies that would take place in like old England in the early 1900s, late 1800s. That was this book. And so we follow our main female character and she ends up visiting a friend of hers because she's delivering a set of books to a local doctor, but he's not called a doctor. I forgot actually what he's called, but you know, people would actually refer to him more as a witch doctor. So she ends up meeting him, and so while she's there, some things happen, a murder is committed, and she ends up meeting the witch doctor, and together they're trying to solve for said murder. It was just a really good book in that I enjoyed the writing. I thought the writing was very clever, and I love like old English speech. So that's really what grabbed me. I so thoroughly enjoyed that. The characters I liked well enough. I mean, is it a story that, you know, is groundbreaking? No, but I did enjoy it. And so if you do like cozy mysteries with not a whole lot of high stakes, there were really no high stakes, but just a cozy mystery, you might actually like this. It's just, yeah, I enjoyed it. And I believe I gave this one 4 stars as well. So yeah, you might want to pick this one up. The Curse of Penrith Hall. And then the penultimate. The book that took me over the edge was Look Closer by David Ellis. This book, whoa. I mean, this book, I I can't even get my words out. When I tell you I was eating it up, I couldn't put it down. It was like, what? And I love that feeling when it's like, okay, I'm just gonna read one more chapter, and then you're like, no, I can't stop here, because every chapter was a cliffhanger. Every chapter ended on a cliffhanger. Every chapter had me completely like enraptured. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what is gonna happen next? Who's really involved? Who's really responsible? So how much can I tell you without spoiling Look Closer? So okay, so there's a man and a woman who are married, and then two people are offed, right? Two people are murdered, and we're trying to figure out who's responsible for the murder. Is it the man who is a law professor, by the way, or is his wife somehow responsible? Or is the man who died, is he responsible for the woman who died? It's like this, like a game of cat and mouse. I'm struggling to explain because I don't want to give anything away. I feel like to talk about this book is to talk about what actually happens in the book. And I probably should have said, you know, skip ahead if you don't want to hear the spoilers, but it's not a book review. It's just me telling you, like, this is what I read. This was a like 5-star read for me in terms of it being a fast pace. I mean, this is like the actual fast pace. Like, my heart was beating and I'm like, one more chapter. It was incredible. I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved it. So for a thriller, 5 stars for a thriller. Absolutely, hands down, highly recommend. I actually want to read other books by him because if they're like this, I am sold. Okay, and so I have a few more. Like I said, it was an incredible month of reading. So I also read Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murder, and that book, oh my goodness. Okay, 4.5 stars. I was laughing throughout the book because Vera is funny. Vera is so funny with her deadpan, like in your face kind of humor. She's gonna tell it like it is. So if you haven't heard about this book yet, oh gosh, listen, you just need to pick it up. But if you pick up the physical book, you need to also get it in audio. I'm so glad I heard a few people say to also read it in audio. Oh my goodness, it just takes the book to a 10. To read it alone, I would not have gotten the true essence, because what you get in the book is Vera's accent, her affect. You get so much that, like, even the pronunciation of the Chinese teas that she serves in her tea shop, I wouldn't have pronounced those correctly. And so it just adds to the story in a way that is so great and so authentic. And so I highly recommend that you also listen to the audio. Fantastic, fantastic. But it's the story of an old woman, which when I read these things, I'm like, Vera's really not that old, but I'm gonna go with how she's described. She's described as an old woman, an old lonely woman. She has her tea shop and she doesn't get very many visitors in her tea shop. And so one morning she comes down, there's a dead body. Egats! How is there a dead man lying on my floor? And there starts this kooky story of this older woman trying to figure out who was involved in this man's murder. And what is so beautiful about this is that she ends up meeting a cast of characters who she suspects of being involved in this man's murder. And what she finds is family among these people. And it is just really, it's heartwarming. It's not deep. It's not meant to be a deep story, but is it meant to be a heartwarming story that's going to tug at your heartstrings if you have a heart? If you're not the Grinch, then yes. I highly recommend. Oh my gosh. So when I'm recording this, it is now April. And so on April 1st, I woke up and immediately went to download the audiobook for the second book because it came out on April 1st. And so that one I think is like Vera Wong's Guide to Dead Bodies or something like that. But suffice to say, I will be back to talk about that one for sure because I will absolutely be listening to it. But for now, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murder, you need to read it for sure. Okay, so another book that I read that I absolutely loved was All I Ever Wanted, All I Ever Needed. And this book sat on my TBR, just like Yellowface, sat on my TBR since sometime early last year. And I don't know what took me so long to get around to it, but I'm so glad that I finally did. Oh, you want to talk about a heartfelt story? And this is another one that I'm so glad I chose to read via audiobook. Really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the banter more, I think, than if I had read it. Really enjoyed it because the narrators were really good at their delivery. And so it just made the story that much more enjoyable. But it is a story about a woman who ends up moving from Texas to Washington State and for work. And while there, she meets a man and, you know, a friendship buds from that. And then it turns into something much more beautiful. And it is all in the writing and in the storytelling for this one. It's not that it's such a unique story. I mean, it's boy meets girl, you know, girl thinks boy is cute, boy asks girl out, right? Like it's that sort of formulaic story, but it was done in such a way where it was done so well and so beautifully. The way that the two of them formed their friendship first was top tier. You want to talk about an epic slow burn of a book, and I love a slow burn. I can't stand insta love. Slow burn is everything. This was like the slow burn to slow burn. And it was done so well because their relationship made it so that when they did get together, it was so strong. It was so believable. And it made you say, not only, you know, are you rooting for these characters, these fictional characters, but it makes you root like for your own life or for people around you to have something so strong. Oh my gosh. Like, whew. I plan to read the other books in this series because I realized when I finished it, I was like, okay, well, what else has she written? And there are, I think, 2 other books in the series where she picks up on, so they're interconnected standalone because she picks up on the stories of characters that you've met in the book. And so I will definitely be continuing to read this author. But oh my gosh, such a good book. I rated it 4.5 stars. And I recommend that you read it. If you're a romance girly, especially, get your hands on All I Want, All I Need. You will not be disappointed. I also read The Truth According to Ember, which I really liked that book because it was about a group I don't read about often, and that is Native Americans or Indigenous people. The Truth According to Ember was about a young Native woman who she is, you know, she's just trying to come up. You know, she wants to be able to drive a decent car. Her car is a straight putt-putt. It sounds like it's been like glued together and held together by like Scotch tape. She lives in an apartment with her best friend, and, you know, the apartment, I guess, is, you know, pretty old and a little bit run down, but they do the best that they can with it. And she's just like, she works at a bowling alley, and she's just like, this is not it. Like, I'm not trying to spend my life at a bowling alley. I really want to be an accountant. But I had to spend my money on something else important, which you'll find out if you read the book. And so I'm just going to apply for this accountant position, and I'm just going to kind of fudge the details a little bit because, you know, maybe I didn't finish school, but I started it and I know some stuff about accounting. I'm actually really good at this. So I'm just going to fudge it a little bit. So she does that. She gets the job and she is a little bit in over her head, but she, you know, but she knows what she's doing in terms of like her accounting work. So she's fine there. But in terms of like the people who work with her, they are definitely extra, and they're definitely Oh my God, talk about some bigoted people who say some crazy stuff to her, in front of her, like, oh my goodness. So while there though, she meets this man who is also indigenous, and he just sounds like he is the bee's knees. Like, he is just fine. And so I found myself like having a crush on him in the book, which I love when that happens, when you really, really like the characters and you're crushing on them. Like, it just makes me feel like a 13-year-old again. Who doesn't want to feel like a 13-year-old again sometimes, right? Because adulting, right? Can we all agree, adulting? So I love when I crush on a character. So I was crushing on him. And I can't remember his name right now. Like, I want to say Diablo, but it wasn't that. It was something similar though. And he was just like grounded and just like self-assured. Whereas she wasn't, because she knew she was lying, and she had lied to get into this job. And so she's like always trying to like cover that up. And so she lies on top of lies, and she just keeps compounding her lies. And it's just, so that got a little bit annoying, but then I had to kind of step out of it and say, you know, first of all, I mean, this book is probably written for somebody who's probably in their 20s, early 20s, you know, maybe even a teenager, although it was a little bit spicy. So I'm going to take back the teenager part. Say maybe somebody, you know, late teens, early 20s, this book is probably written for. So let me give it a pass there. Was it a good story? It was. It was fine. I mean, I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. It was good enough. I don't think it was like the best romance that I've read, but it was good. But what I really did love about it was reading about a group that I don't read about often because they're so underrepresented. And so seeing this book made me happy and made me want to read it. And I will definitely be looking for more Native authors to read in the future. The last book I want to talk about is, which it wasn't, so I'm going to make this distinction only because it doesn't actually come in book format. It was only audio because it was an Audible original, and that is Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan. So you can only listen to it, is why I'm making the distinction. So this was so stinking cute. I gave it 4 stars. Could it have been longer? Yes. It was one of those, like, it's almost like it's the audio version of a novella. And so it was really short, but so sweet. Could it have been longer? Yes. Would I have hung around if it were longer? For sure, because I think that there could have been some interesting details that could have been fleshed out about the characters. But for what it was as a novella, it offered a good amount of story, and for that I did give it 4 stars. So Coming Home is about a homecoming, and these characters attended a historically Black university, and so they're returning to their alma mater for homecoming weekend. The main male character, he's returning because he's been asked to return and speak on a panel. His daughter is going to be the homecoming queen. And so, you know, there's that connection. She's a legacy to the university. And then someone that he used to have an eye for back in the day, she's returning as well to the university because she is, I believe, if I remember correctly, she is the person who's going to be interviewing him. They weren't able to get together in college. That's when, you know, he was doing his thing, she was doing her thing. It's almost like a second chance because they didn't have their first chance. Circumstances did not allow for it, but this is the opportunity where they got to see each other again, and they realize that they realize the attraction is still there 20 years later. And so, oh my goodness, it was just a heartfelt story. It was just a really good story. And it was all the things that Kennedy Ryan is so good at doing, creating these deep characters, even in a novella, like these characters with depth, these characters who feel multi-dimensional. And I really enjoyed it. And so I highly recommend, if you just want a quick listen to, I think it's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, a quick listen novella, pick up Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan. Really good. And so that is it. Those were my most recent reads in March. It was an amazing month. I don't usually read, or I don't often read that many books in a month. I don't know what I was on in March. It was nonstop for me. I was just like consuming books like grapes, like just chucking books in my mouth like grapes. We'll see what happens in April, but it was a great month. I hope you had a great reading month. Talk to me in the comments. Let me know what you read. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.